day. Is this the last session? Is today the last session? Like, this is it for the day? So, oh man, slim pickings, huh? Geez, you guys are like, there's so much other stuff I'd like to be doing right now. All right, but no, thank you guys so much for coming. So, yeah, my name is Justin Rondeau. I am the Director of Optimization at Digital Marketer. And Digital Marketer, we are a marketing education company to help small businesses, entrepreneurs, help actually grow their businesses. It's actually within our mission statement that we do want to help grow 10,000 businesses, well, double 10,000 businesses within the next 5 years. But I'm not going to talk about that because I have very limited time to talk about things, and I just kind of want to set some standards here. I don't care if you interrupt me to ask questions or something like that. Like if there's something I'm going too fast on, say like, yo, stop. Or if there's something you want more clarification on, please let me know. It also helps me because when you field questions at the end, you sometimes forget the role you were on when you were talking about it at that moment, and I might just give you a worse answer, whether I'd actually be in the moment talking about it. So please don't hesitate to. I think that you need to be at that microphone to ask questions, so if you actually have to ask a question, just stand up, ask it. I have 30 minutes to it says 15 minutes out there. Actually, how long do I have? How long? 15? It says online 30. Oh, I'm gonna have to run through this. Shit. Okay, all right, I'm gonna move fast. All right, so 6 tips to really 15? Okay, all right, so I prepped for 30. So 6 tips to supercharge your optimization program. So maybe no questions, sorry guys. All right, so tip number 1, 30? Oh, thank you. I can slow down now. Okay, so those first 2 slides are just titles, so don't worry about that. All right, now, so tip number 1, and I think this is something that I really want to get across that people miss out on way too much. And I know this is kind of like a vague tip, but focus on processes, not hacks. Anything that you see that's like, oh, I saw X% lift at over this period of time, and I just did this one little change, that's not really a scalable learning at all, okay? That's not even like focused on your business at all. So when you see these things, whenever you see a case study or anything like that, that's what worked for somebody at a particular time that has very different customers than you, okay? So focus on processes and understanding the user, not, oh, if I make this little change, I'm gonna see an X% lift. Those type of tactical hacks are what you cannot build a business on. That is some shaky foundation. So stay away from that. And I wanna show you exactly what I mean by this. I was on LinkedIn the other day, and LinkedIn's kind of more like Facebook these days, right? Have you ever seen like, oh man, what word do you see in this like jumble of letters? I feel inspired. That's kind of what LinkedIn's becoming, which is a bummer. But I saw this on LinkedIn, and I wanted to throw up in my mouth, okay? So it says marketing fact, okay? Marketing fact. There's a 5% decrease in form completions for every field on a form over 4. That is absolute garbage. That is not a marketing fact. Where's your source, sir? I actually commented on that and asked for a source, and he didn't have one. It's just his opinion. All right? This is an unfounded hack that could actually really leave things on the table for you. And now here's a perfect case study, okay? A perfect case study. So this is for a company called KinderCare, and this is for when they actually contact their where they contact the kindergarten to get their child enrolled. It's pre-K. So this is before like any sort of like first grade, second grade stuff. So you have the standard things, first name, last name, email, etc. But on this variant, they added a form field. Oh no, there's more than 4 fields. You're gonna lose so many conversions. But what actually happened was there was no statistical difference between them at all. What's actually really, really cool, since there was no statistical difference in there, they could add that field in there and actually get higher qualified leads. Because they found that the people that actually had comments or questions were going to respond faster than people who did not, and then subsequently enroll. So if this isn't hurting your raw conversion rate, why not add it there? The reason you wouldn't add it there is because you heard that marketing fact that you're gonna lose conversion rate because you added a field when there's more than 4 form fields on there. Garbage, garbage, garbage. In fact, let me show you this one, and then I have a chart I wanna show you. So this is another example, and this was a test run by a friend of mine, Pep Laya, who has conversionxl.com. awesome optimization blog. Really, really think you should read it if you don't. And he was, this is a 5-step form, so there's like, after this, they have to fill out so much more information. It's kind of ridiculous. But on this side, and you can see the green laser, you won't be, oh, you can still see it there. They just asked pure email address, just to get them started and move them on, okay? And then they went, how about this? Choose job, state, driving experience, and email. Oh, they added so many form fields, it's going to reduce conversions. No. When they had this here, it actually qualified people better and actually made it not look spammy, all right? There's a 31.3% lift in opt-ins on this form, and then actually in completions of the form overall, I forget, it was low double digits, so it was something within like 10 percentile. Okay, so initial form registrations went up, and then this as well. So this was, another know your market, know your audience. When someone's like, I can get you a job, just give me your email. But you don't know anything about me. How are you supposed to contact me with something that's necessary for me to do? You can't. And this is another case of this, okay? So this chart was put together from Unbounce's database. Are you guys familiar with Unbounce? Yeah, so they're landing page software. And I've actually been testing this to see if it works even for my audience, and it's actually pretty spot on. I'm gonna have better info within the year, but so at one form field, they saw overall, like the email, they saw a 17% conversion rate. When you added an extra field, maybe like name, they see a kind of a small drop off. Then when they get to 3, big drop off. Then to 4, another large drop off. But look at 4 to 7. Stays relatively the same. I mean, a 7.82 conversion rate to a 7.61 conversion rate doesn't really matter, right? But they're getting more information. Okay, so I found, and this is true, like every time I do like 3 form fields versus 4 form fields, it doesn't even matter what the 4th form field is. It could probably be like, do you like cake? Yes, we're still gonna lose them. But we do see that major drop off between the 3 and the 4. So if you know you need to have at 4 form fields, might as well just ask for some more information to qualify people. Go for that MQL. Maybe turn them into a sales qualified lead. And then this upshot here, don't think, I'm gonna add 10. Don't do that because that's just really for like kind of the highly invested pages. So like a sales page for like a HubSpot or like a Marketo. Like those are the ones that are super, super long and they kind of have there's a different intention there. So instead of these hacks that was shown by that LinkedIn fella, you do need to start looking at process, okay? You need to be able to identify your goals, gather the data to meet those goals, actually analyze it. Remember, like everybody, like big data is gonna solve all our problems. If it's like, yeah, you just aggregating data and not using anything with it is absolutely useless. So you need to actually analyze that data and be able to trust that data. And here, Brian Massey is in here today, and actually he helped spec out for some of our properties that Digital Marketer owns, which I wish they implemented within their analytics stuff. And he knows as well as I do. He's speaking tomorrow, by the way. You should definitely go. He's going to talk about landing pages. It's going to be awesome. But he knows better than anybody that you need to be able to trust your data. How many of you are data-driven or would say you're data-driven? Okay, cool. How many of you can say that you trust the numbers coming out of Google Analytics right now? Yeah, see, I would have done that too earlier, and we actually hired somebody to go through our analytics platform, make sure everything was connected right with our e-commerce setup and with our CRM, so that I actually do trust that. I know the percentage of error to expect, all right? So if you can't trust your data, you can't optimize, simply put. So once you start analyzing that data, then you have to start being like, okay, create that hypothesis. Why, like, what do you need to change? Why is there a problem? Why is something doing well? Like, we don't need to think of reactionary as something's broken, I need to fix it. Sometimes you do like, well, why the hell is this thing working so much better than everything else? Is it a false positive? So start looking at that data and create a hypothesis. Then you start designing your variants. You come up with meeting that hypothesis, implementing your tech, running your tests, analyzing results, and then it goes right back into identifying goals. So this is all cyclical. This isn't I think we should change that button from green to orange, and I'm done. It's not what this is. And that's not what optimization is. And that's really what I wanted to get away with the first tip. Focus on process. If you're not, you're just doing like ad hoc testing, and you're gonna see false lifts, and you're not gonna be helping your business. And you know what's gonna be really, really bad? If you're working with a client and you say, oh, we got a 30% lift on this, and then they don't see it turn into sales, that is not going to look good for you, and they will probably fire you. Okay, tip 2, measure multiple metrics that matter, okay? You need to actually measure the stuff that matters, and I know that that sounds like very, very basic, but not a lot of people measure stuff. I don't think, I mean, now we're getting, at Digital Marketer, we're getting a lot better at this and kind of looking at lifetime value, churn rate, attrition rate, those types of things, but even basic stuff, people aren't going through to actually know, like average order value. What's your revenue per visitor on this? What's your earnings per click? And then also measuring micro conversions above that to see how they relate. Is there correlation? Right? And if you can actually use micro conversions as indicators to call tests on low traffic sites. And I'll show you how I did that in a little bit. So it all starts with identifying your goals and KPIs, all right? So what are you trying to do on this page, and what are your progress indicators? Or performance indicators, rather. We have top funnel, which are engagement metrics, really. Your top funnel stuff's mainly engagement. These are not directly connected to your long-term business goals. It's generally like on a home page, it's gonna be a lot of top funnel metric stuff. Like, did we get people to click through and move on? On a blog post, top funnel metric stuff. Did they click our call to action? Did they subscribe? What happened there? So a lot of top funnel things. Mid funnel, these are generally associated with lead generation. Unless lead generation is your business, that would then be your bottom funnel, okay? So this is all, lead generation or relationship changing metrics. So relationship changing metrics, I talk about, and I think if you're familiar with digitalmarketer.com, we talk a lot about kind of moving people down the funnel through lead magnets, tripwires, et cetera. And the reason we think that the tripwire, which is a low-cost item that's, when you're at the supermarket and there's a pack of gum, like it's the no-brainer purchase. We call them the self-liquidating offer. We can generally get those at a very cheap rate, buying like for survival life. We sell for shipping only like our credit card knives and those things. But they give us $2, but guess what? They're a customer now, okay? The relationship's fundamentally changed there. When you have someone that's willing to give you information, that's great. They're at the beginning stages. But at the mid-funnel level, when they're really willing to actually be a customer, even for $1, the relationship changes. So that's why kind of this mid-funnel area and the relationship-changing metrics sit there. Because you're not going to make a lot of money off of these, free plus shipping offers. You're not going to, but you'll build a hell of a list. And then bottom funnel, these are your robust metrics, okay? These are the things directly connected to business goals. So these are your purchase rate, your average order value, revenue per visitor, lead close rate, et cetera. Cool. So there's going to be 2 types of goals on every single page. So I was talking a lot about business goals and how they relate to your KPIs, but not every page is a direct, bottom funnel goal or a direct top. So think about it like page goals would be your immediate conversion. This includes like clicks and opt-ins. So that's immediate conversion. And then business goals would be the deeper funnel ones. And you want to start seeing how these relate to one another, okay? So like say if I'm running a lead generation landing page test and I see a 40% conversion right there, I want to see throughout the funnel where at the mid-level, we're at our self-liquidating offer, the tripwire, what's the conversion rate there and how do they relate to each other? And furthermore, okay? So here's a pretty cool image. I really hyped that one up. But this is pretty much everything I just talked about in terms of the different types of conversion goals from top funnel. So if you want to snap a picture, go ahead. I'm pretty sure you get the slides anyways, so it just makes it look cool if I'm in it. All right. Okay, so when you're measuring multiple metrics and you've identified the ones you have, I want to make this absolutely clear. Ooh, I breathed really hard there. Just because a top funnel metric increased at like X%, say 40%, doesn't mean a deep funnel metric will increase at that rate or even at all. This is when I talk about kind of running tests at volume. So like say if I'm just focusing on increasing leads, all I want to do is just increase the number of leads coming through, but I will monitor my sales. And if my sales conversion rate stays consistent between the 2 variants, I'll call the winner for the one that pushes the most leads because we're actually getting things off of volume there. But if you see a decrease, then you have a loser. All right? And that's how like the different metrics will play together. And so here's an example here. So this was a test run on Express's site where they had a singular call to action. Good work. This is around a seasonal time too. This was during Christmas. I think this was done 2 years ago. It's a little bit dated, but it gets the point across. And then they tried self-segmentation, women, men. Self-segmentation is baller. That is some good stuff out there if you can do it right. If you can get people to raise their hand on your homepage and get them to the right bit of content, and even if you're using personalization tools, you can like cookie that and like just start hitting them with the content when they hit there regularly without having to raise their hand. Very, very useful stuff. So self-segmentation works really well, but in this case, it didn't work so well for them. This actually caused a drop in product views, add to carts, and in orders. But notice the difference here. Product views dropped only 2.01%. If they only measured that, they'd be like, you know what? It's not that bad. We can eat that. They cannot eat a 10.59% drop in orders. Cannot. So you have to be measuring multiple metrics that fit in line with your campaign goals and your business goals. Because at the end of the day, this would have been a major loss for a company like Express. So the benefits of testing multiple metrics. You get the full story. You can get insights on low samples, and I'll show you in a second how I did that. And you come up with better iterations, okay? So this is going to actually help feed your further optimization campaigns. So here's an example of something that we did for our 5-minute SEO. This test was kind of stupid. There was not a whole lot of reason behind it. My copywriter came up to me and was like, hey, we do all caps a lot in our subheads, and it sounds like we're yelling at them. I was like, okay, we can prove that if they like that or if they don't. They didn't really care. So we see here all caps, not all caps, didn't matter. I knew it wasn't going to move it anyways, that was an appeasement test. But the reason I was able to call this is because this was a funnel that didn't get a lot of traffic. We actually didn't actively promote it. And so I measured 3 metrics here: the purchases, the add to cart clicks, and then the lead generation signups. Now, pay attention to this graph. That's what I want you to pay attention to. But first, let me tell you these numbers. Like, I could not call a test at 35 conversions, 35 sales, and 29 sales. You shouldn't call it there. Not enough data, right? But look here how everything starts evening out. You can see the break, like you can see that it has normalized. Now, since I was measuring multiple metrics and using micro-conversions on a small sample size, I see added carts still pretty low here, 61 and 63 for add to carts, but look at this. I'll go back. Those metrics normalized. Now here's the kicker. This has enough. The lead magnet, just generating leads, 1,008, 985. I'd be cool with calling something there, but notice here, you still see that normalization occur. There is a little blip at the end where it goes up and they get further apart, but you're not going to see those intersect again. It's just not going to happen. And even though, from the purchase perspective, that I only had 35 and 29 for those, looking at the other metrics and how the normalization period occurred, I was able to say, you know what? It doesn't matter what we do here. We can call this test now rather than waste resources, time, and analysis any longer on that. And I was able to move on. So that's how measuring multiple metrics actually made it a lot easier for me to run tests on a smaller sample size. Cool. Oh, am I going? Okay. Yeah, that's just what I said. All right. So tip 3, use analytics to identify pages. Again, none of these things are going to be like rocket science, like, oh my God, like maybe you didn't think about it, I don't know. But using analytics to actually identify your pages. So Google Analytics, I'm sure we're all familiar with this. If you trust the data in it, then now you go wild, okay? So let's take a look, and we're just pulling numbers. You can use the funnel visualization tool in Google Analytics or something like Heap Analytics to do this for you, to start looking at your funnel and start seeing breakpoints. So evaluating your funnel is going to show you some really interesting effects of the pages that you're working on. So I'm going to use this as just a hypothetical example, okay? Where homepage, category, product, cart, thank you. Can somebody in here tell me where I should look first for identifying pages? Like where is the problem occurring? Where's the biggest problem or problems occurring?
Going from your category to your product.
Yeah. Category, product, even product cart. Like, those are pages I need to start looking at where there's a major problem. That's exactly right. And so let's, for this hypothetical example, say, okay, there's a problem on our category pages. We're just not moving people from the category level down to the product level, right? Here's the page. Could somebody tell me how we'd make that better?
Less options.
Less options could be one.
Not have it all look the same.
Not have it look the same. I think if you actually had a call to action of some kind, I don't know what happens when I click. Am I going to like view product maybe? Something like that might help out. But if you see a drop-off, go to where it's happening. So this will help you identify the pages. And then you can do this till you're blue in the face, like come up with ideas. But where you're really gonna have a lot of power is using like your qualitative analysis. So using like heat maps, user surveys, anything like that, that will tell you and really hone in so you don't just kind of make a bunch of guesses. All right, but I think this is a good exercise to try out. Go like in your analytics suite and look at the breakdown. And then you're gonna find your problem area really fast. You might even find, then again, you might find something that works really well, which you wanna try and transition later on in the funnel. So you can surmise a lot from quantitative data. You can get a lot of information, but you can't get the why. You can't get like the heart, okay? It's like the Tin Man. Like the Google Analytics will kind of tell you what's up, but you really need to put it in context. And here's an example of just a really, really ugly spreadsheet that I was using before we hired an awesome guy that's really great at making Excel sheets. And I really need to change this slide. But this would just tell me like our breakdown for goal 1 would be leads generated, goal 2 would be click-throughs, this would be purchases of our tripwire, and that would be purchase of our core offer. And I just monitored everything as above standard, at standard, below standard, and went from there with notes in there. So that's kind of how I did it in an Excel sheet. That's ugly. You could use something like Heap Analytics and it'd be nicer. But it really comes down to picking pages that matter. So you want to go for high-value pages with high-value pages with a high bounce rate are killer. Like bounce rates in and of themselves aren't really the page you need to go after right away. Like so say if you like can 30x a page, that's at like 0.01% conversion rate versus something that's at like 3 conversion rate. You want to go for a 3%er versus the 0.01. Just makes more sense in picking your battles. So high-value pages with a high bounce rate, though, that means there's something effectively wrong with the page. You need to figure it out. Deep funnel pages. I have always been an advocate of working lower in the funnel first and starting there, mainly because all these people just jump through all your hoops already, right? Just bring them home. Like, what is it? Like in Happy Gilmore's, like, just tap it in. Just tap it in, Happy. That's all you gotta do. So start lower there, and it's a lot easier to measure because you're not going like, there was clicks on this higher funnel page and how this interacts and like, what are the variables and things like that. This is like click to sale. Boom, done. Pretty easy. And then looking at funnel valleys, the kind of what I showed you there from the drop-off when you look at your funnel and identifying the pages there. And this one's a really fun one that you might not know in Google Analytics. So the high visit, high bounce pages that I was talking about, what you can do to search that, so you know when you go into bounce rate and you search, like, and you put it in order and you get like 100% and 0%, and they're just stupid outliers that aren't gonna tell you anything? Well, when you sort by bounce rate, go here into sort type and select weighted, and it will show you, based on Google's algorithm and all the math their statisticians did, it will show you kind of the best pages, like your highest visit pages and their correlated bounce rate. And so like say for here, like we see there's one that's bouncing at 71% and it's a content page. That's not good. We want people to stay on our content longer, and they generally do. So tip number 4, fix what's broken. Who has heard, like always be testing, like you should test that, like test everything, we should test that. Everybody's like, you've probably heard consultants say that, you've seen blogs that say that all the time, and they're full of it. Because you want to test what's ambiguous where there's risk involved. If there's something broken or just fundamentally not working, you can just change it. Man, like if there's no risk involved with it, and you've identified the problem, just change it. Why the heck would you test something? There's always an opportunity cost associated with every action that you make. And pretty much there's an infinite number of tests you could run. And since we can't do infinity of anything, you have to pick your battles. So don't get stuck around things that are broken. All right, this is like way throwback to like Brian Eisenberg here, where talking about his conversion hierarchy of functional, accessible, usable, intuitive, persuasive. I hold here. Anything at the functional, accessible level, so functional means broken, accessible means can they get it on different mediums? Does it work on mobile? Things like that. Usable, you're gonna be looking at usability tests. Can they actually make can they take the desired action? Does it make sense, right? Intuitive, does it make sense? And then finally, persuasive, are you making them act? Are you getting them to act? Don't test functional, don't test accessible. Every now and then you have to test usable. Test and optimize usable, intuitive, persuasive. Boom. All right, so tip 5, schedule a finite stop time. All right, I know math is a pain in the butt. People don't like doing it. I get it. But you need to have a stop time. You need to understand your sample size. You need to understand how many people need to hit your site in order for you to actually have conclusive data, right? How many case studies have you seen where they just completely hide? Where they like the sample sizes and the time run. So a fun example, and then I'll get back to this, was Lead Pages posted on their blog the other day, like, oh, did this green button worked way better than this orange button. It increased it 86%. And they showed no data, like none, just the percentage. And then when we asked about it, they just said, we can't share that. Well, at that level, on such a small change with that large of an increase, that's likely a type 1 error that's occurred. That's a false positive. I bet in a day it could dip around the other side, because it was probably run for like a day or two on a very small sample size. So you need to know the sample size required, and there's like really easy tools there. VWO has one. They actually integrated it into their tool, which helps out. But this is why you need to have this, because if you are just saying, I'm going to wait until it has significant results, a significant change, you're thinking there's either a lift, a loss, you're forgetting about the third one, the null. So the null is nothing will happen, and around like 70% of tests don't move a needle at all. So you're, by just focusing on waiting till statistically significant results, you're forgetting about kind of the majority of all end games for tests. All right, so here's an example of a lift here. Headline test by Noah Kagan, boom. I don't really care about the results, I just want to show you lift, loss, this one decreased, this, none. So it can happen a lot, and this one happens more often than not, okay? So if you're only thinking of a lift and a loss, that means you're ignoring that completely, and you think you're running a test into perpetuity until one of your desired end results happens, when the null is very possible, and more than likely the case. So just have a stop time. Here's some great quotes for some peeps. Netflix considers 90% of what they do to be wrong. We're wrong about what the customer wants, mainly because we're not our own customer. Okay? So factors that impact test timing: lift percentage, confidence rate, number of variants, number of variants twice, number of people to the site per day. So your actual unique traffic. That's what number 4 should say. Okay? Work backwards. Pick your time period, 1 to 6 weeks. If you're going to test anything longer than 6 weeks, stop. That's just assuming that you're going to get a result. Or you're going to run into seasonality issues or date issues. It's not good. Record unique traffic for that time period. Divide that by the number of variants. Desired confidence rate. If you're cool with less than 95, awesome. Do your thing. Calculate your lift percentage. Can you get X lift? Can you reasonably expect to get X lift? If you're like, oh man, I have to see a 200% increase, well, guess what, dude? Don't run that test there, because you're not going to see it. Okay, so is it a realistic expectation? And can you meet there? So if you work backwards this way, you're going to be able to cut out a lot of tests that are going to waste your time. And if you can do all that, then you schedule it out, and you stick to it. Call it when it's done. And finally, focus on the user. Conversion rate optimization isn't about increasing conversions. It's about it's about meeting user expectations. You can tell I put this part at the end. It's about meeting user expectations. We need detailed user research. Here's some of them. Heat maps, user surveys, session recordings. I talked a lot about this as kind of like giving the Tin Man the heart, kind of giving some personality to the data. Qualitative data will always give you the competitive edge, because look at this. Over the last few years from this study, usability studies, visitors, eye tracking, everything there, it all falls below 50% of people actually doing it. So you'll get a competitive edge if you do it. And more people are starting to use this stuff, so you're losing it. If you want to use a tool, use Hotjar. Thing is sweet.
What is it called?
Hotjar. It's awesome. It has session recordings. That's my favorite thing in the world. So here's an example of a heat map. It's showing click density. A lot of people are clicking here. But interestingly, here's a scroll map. Not a lot of people scroll down. We should probably pepper in more calls to action throughout the sales page, which is something we're testing right now. And we had a heat map like we saw here. a lot of people were clicking on this image, so it's right in here, and it didn't actually link anywhere. So by just adding a link to our sales page, we saw a 40.9% increase in actual sales of our product, because, just meeting user expectations. That's all this really is, okay? And here's a session recording. It'll show you how everybody interacts with your site. This is Hotjar's tool, by the way. Really, really, really powerful stuff. But if you're gonna use heat maps, use Crazy Egg, because their heat map tool kind of stinks. Hotjar is awesome, except for their heat mapping. And then I used that for lessons learned. This was how I had one example where everybody was scrolling down our cart because our price was at the bottom and not at the top. So we're redoing all of our carts soon. But I used all those session recordings. I looked at about like 700 session recordings in our cart. And I'm at time, so I'm just gonna say this really quick. Here's a user survey. Again, this is I feel like I'm doing a Hotjar demo at this point. It's really cool, user surveys. Some sweet survey tips, ask a single question. If asking for more, then set the time constraints. If you have like 7 questions, say it's gonna take you 5 minutes. Set the time constraints. Open-ended questions, you'll get less response rate, but they're way more powerful, similar to KinderCare. No, it's just a segment. The type of people who take users are only who take surveys are only a small segment. Like you have a lot of great customers out there, but half of them can't be bothered to take a survey. They don't care about it. So those are the survey type people. Just keep that in mind when you're trying to scale these results out. Here's a bunch of great questions you can ask in surveys. This is actually swiped completely from my buddy Michael Agard. And then user testing. Go to usabilityhub.com, and they have the original 5-second test and things like that. Awesome, awesome tool. And then my favorite type of qualitative data, you can use common customer service questions and common sales questions. This is stuff you already have. You don't have to pay any more for it. Ask your service reps, your salespeople, what are the questions they're getting? And you're gonna learn a lot about your customer. So quick recap, clean your data, make sure you can trust it. If you don't trust it, find a way to. Get a testing tech of some kind. Don't just and don't use Google Content Experiments, it's stupid. I used it the other day, I was so mad. Get a qualitative source of any kind, Hotjar, Crazy Egg, they're relatively inexpensive. ID problem pages and understand why. Run the test, report, and then analyze. I'm Justin Rondeau, thank you so much for listening to me. I'm sorry I went a little bit over. I don't know if we'll have time for questions, but I really love talking to people, so talk to me after, and just hit me up. I will answer emails and things. I work at a home office in Boston, so I get lonely. All right, thank you.